Hey guys, today I'm going to teach you how to make a beautiful pair of earrings where the beads hang like magic in the air, but it's only illusion. Stick around to find out what it's all about. Hey guys, Susan Thomas here. Today we're going to be making an illusion style pair of earrings, and the reason it's called illusion is because it's an invisible cord. Okay, I know, you're like, great, Susan, invisible cord. No, it really is a clear cord that's just like any other stringing wire, except that you literally don't see it. When it lies up against the skin, it disappears. It's kind of amazing. So using it for earrings is really fun because they just kind of float in midair, make these beautiful romantic styles. And I'm gonna show you guys how to make kind of a long, easy illusion style pair of earrings that, gosh, they're so easy, but so beautiful. So some of the tools and supplies you're going to need, very importantly, you're going to need something called Supple Max. This is an illusion style cord or an invisible monofilament cord. It is not stretchy, folks. It doesn't stretch at all. It actually, when you pull on it, it's taut like this. Just like any other stringing wire, it's actually fairly strong. But like I said, it's made out of a monofilament, so you actually can't see the cord except for that little shine on it when it comes up against the skin. So it makes these really neat, almost invisible floating necklaces, earrings, and bracelets. So you'll need that. I have it in kind of the largest size they make it in. It's a 0.016 inch and 0.4 millimeter. It's kind of big for an illusion style. I picked that because I kind of thought you could see it the best. Does come smaller than that as well. Then I'm also kind of standing here with a bunch of different crimp beads. And these crimp beads are the smallest ones I could find because you can do this a lot of different ways. You can knot it, you can glue it, or you can crimp it. But when I crimp it, I like the element of metal that it gets in there, but I don't like them to look too big. So I usually use the smallest ones I can find. And then you're also going to need some beads in graduated sizes. I'm going to use pearls today. And then you'll just need a couple tools. We're going to use a flat nose plier for squeezing the crimps, and then just a cutter, any type of cutter or scissors to cut your cord. Now, Supple Max is what we're going to start with. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut ourselves a small piece of the Supple Max. You're going to need about 8 inches of the cord for each earring. So not a lot of cord. And this stuff is, it comes on a huge spool. There's 100 meters, 328 feet on this spool. And it's just really, really a cost-effective way and a beautiful way to make jewelry. Also, kind of conserves your beads as well. So you're going to get this little overlapping piece of illusion cord. And I'm just holding it out here for you guys to look at. You should be able to see it up against my blue background there. And the first thing you're going to do is you need to create a place to kind of hold the two pieces of cord together and make a loop at the top. You can do this a couple different ways. On the one I've got started right here, I just used crimp beads themselves to start the earring and to make a little loop of illusion cord at the top. So you can see there's 2 crimp beads right there that are just squeezed down flat to create a little bit of just texture, but also a serviceable loop at the top of the cord. And you can see how it kind of springs out, and I needed to kind of come closer together. So that's why I used crimp beads. Now, you can also use something called a clamshell and put a crimp bead inside the clamshell if you want to. But we're gonna do that. We're gonna do this today because I think it looks really pretty. So just drop a crimp bead on there. I'm gonna use 2 just because it's just a little nicer look, a little more finished look than just 1 crimp bead on there. So I'm just going to pop both of those guys on there. And I'm actually putting it over both pieces. You can see I've got both pieces there and then both crimp beads. And you're just going to pull it up here, creating a little loop at the top. So now that I've got it on both of these little cords, I'm just going to pull it up towards the top of the illusion cord, creating a little loop up there. Then I'm going to grab my flat nose plier, and you can see why I'm using the flat nose plier instead of just a chain nose plier. Get a little more surface area there, and I can grab both of those crimp beads, pull them up to where I want them, and then give them a squeeze together, and it creates that little loop at the top. And that guy then can fit right onto your ear wire. Now let's come up here where this ear wire is hanging off this little stand, and you can see kind of that I've created the exact same component there at the top. Okay. So I'm going to put that to the side. I've got this one already set up a little bit just to kind of save time because there's a lot of tiny crimp tubes here and there's a lot of stringing involved. So this one here on the longer cord, this one is just set up to crimp. And we're going to crimp the same way I just did. But if you'll look at this, I've strung 5 pearls on the cord, and each one has a crimp bead between it. These are the tiniest crimp beads I could find. They're about a 0.5 millimeter. And then down at the bottom, there's another crimp bead. That one's going to be the stopper at the bottom there. Now on this other one, obviously I'm using 2 cords. And on this other one here, I've got 5 beads, crimp bead, crimp bead, crimp bead, crimp bead. And then the bottom one, I have already kind of determined the length I want these earrings to be. So I crimped the bottom one as a stopper. On this one, I have a bead stopper to keep that from happening, but on this one, I created that that finish right there at the bottom. And the way I did that is, I mean, I kind of already decided on this pair of earrings how I was going to do it, and so you can see I just used this one as a guide. Once you decide how long you want them, you can just kind of do it over and over again, same way, every time. All right, so next step is to crimp each one of these beads with a little bit of space between them. And on my little guy, I used about a 1/4 inch between each one. Now, if you guys are big measurers, this is the time to get your ruler out. I am not a big measurer. I'm a kind of fly by the seat of my pants type of gal, so I don't measure things like this. But if you want perfection and you want it to be exactly the same on both earrings, then it's not a bad idea to get out your measuring device and just kind of hold it up and make sure that everything is even. You could even not crimp the bottom one at the bottom and keep a little, like I have a little bead stopper at the bottom. Start at the top. Make sure you go a 1/4 inch between each one, and then take that bead stopper off when you're to the bottom. So here's what we're going to do, obviously, is we're going to use these beads, these crimp beads, as stoppers to stop the beads. So there's my first one right there. I'm going to bring that up to within about a 1/4 inch of my crimp beads. Get that out of my way. Then we're going to grab the crimp bead, the first one, with the flat nose plier, come up to here. And all you're going to do is just squeeze it flat, just like so. And so see, that stops that bead from continuing down the wire. Then I'm going to come up and I'm going to do another little 1/4 inch segment between there. Find my next crimp bead. And a lot of you guys are going to say, well, can I use crimp tubes to do this? Of course you can. You can use any type of crimp that you want to. I like crimp beads because I think they present a little bit more roundy than your crimp tubes do, and they don't stick out quite as far for this type of a project. So that's why just the smallest that you can find is what you're looking for. If you don't want any crimp tubes on here, you can actually put a drop of a super glue or a Gorilla Glue or a really fast drying type of glue, and you can put it right where you want that pearl to be, and then just pull the pearl into place. It's kind of amazing. It's an illusion. Okay, so let's pull this next one up. So going for about a 1/4 inch between each pearl. Just bring that guy right there. Give it a squeeze. And if you don't get it exactly right, it's okay. This does not have to be perfect because it just, I don't know, they just look so pretty no matter what you do. All right, so that last little squeeze right there. And then when I pick this up, those guys will all hold in place. Kind of cool, right? Now, the key to the other one is to get the pearls between those pearls that you started with. So those pearls that you just did are going to be the guide for the other side of the earring. So I'm going to bring this up. And so the first side is where, if you were the measuring type, you know, this is where you do all the measuring. The second side, you already have your measurements. You just kind of go between each one. So these are the go-betweens. So I want that pearl to sit between those two pearls. So I'm just going to get my little crimp tube or crimp bead up there, and I'm going to give him a squeeze so that guy sits just boom right between them. It looks better if they're offset, I promise. You know, this is all trial and error until it goes wrong, and then you're like, oh, I wish I'd offset my pearls. So we're going to make sure we do that. So right there, just going to get that guy in place. And it's more important that the crimp bead stays in place than the pearl, because he's going to move a little bit while he's got little minds of their own. And then we're going to bring this one. So just kind of keep the two strands next to each other. And we're going to grab right there, give it a squeeze, like so. And so see kind of how that's kind of nestling together. Then we'll bring the next one up and grab that. So each one, you just take that flat nose plier, come straight down at it and give it a squeeze, just like so. And then the crimp tube does all the work, or the crimp bead, I should say. And if you guys want to know the difference between crimp tubes and crimp beads, one is more of a crimp tube is more of a cylindrical tube that you can also use to crimp or finish off jewelry. A crimp bead is more rounded, and they're really made more for squeezing flat than your crimp tubes are. So because they have a little bit of a rounded edge that'll just bite into your material a little bit. Whereas the crimp tube, when it squeezes flat, doesn't necessarily bite in around the edges. All right, this last guy you want to hang just a little bit below the last one on the first strand. So just give him a squeeze just a little bit underneath there. So then when I pick this up, you can kind of see how that worked. And I got everyone exactly how I wanted it, except my bottom one, I just wish he was a little bit lower. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this guy up. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit. I'm going to give a little squeeze, just a brief squeeze in the opposite direction on my crimp bead. And then I'm going to pull it up the illusion cord just a hair and squeeze it back down. And so that gave me just a little bit more drama at the bottom. Then all you have to do to finish this off is just give a little nip with your nipper and nip off the bottom piece, because you're really not going to see that. Don't go right up against the crimp bead. Leave it just a little bit, like maybe 1/8 of an inch at the bottom. And then you've got those beautiful illusion earrings. And then you just repeat the exact same thing with the other pair, and you're done. So the way that you string these is you just take, here's your illusion cord, you've got your first pearl, you only put a crimp bead underneath each pearl or bead. So when you put this on here, they're actually still going to kind of float on the cord. You don't put a crimp bead on both sides. So just put one underneath, and then your next pearl or bead goes on. So you just gotta put your little crimp bead on there, and they've got tiny little holes. Pop him on, and that one's going to keep the pearl above it on, and this one right here is not having anything to do with that guy. He is for this next crimp bead. So then the next one you put on is the one that's going to hold him in place. So you got to find the little hole on your invisible cord and then add the next pearl. So just one between every set. And then you have to make sure you put one at the very bottom as well, because that's what's going to hold the very last pearl or bead in place. So this guy right here also gets a crimp bead. And these, like I said, are the tiniest crimp beads I could find. They are literally like a 1/2 millimeter crimp beads. But so now when you look at this, now that I've got that all strung, see how there's just one bead below every single pearl. And then you're just crimping away. So use your other earring as a guide. This is my guide right here. I've already crimped the bottom one. And I'm just going to use this guy to see where my next bead is going to go. And that little ear wire just wants to be in my way. So I'm just going to take this guy right here, give him a squeeze, and then I'm going to give this next guy a squeeze. And I'm just keeping them essentially in line with the first set. So I don't have to measure again because I've already done all that. I'm just squeezing. You see it's a lot faster on your second set because you already kind of know where you're going. So that one goes right there. And then this one is the bottom one. And he just kind of goes right down there in the bottom. And then the second one, we're just going to use that same method where you want to kind of go between each pearl. So boom, he's between. This guy's going to go. Make sure you always want to push your pearls down so you can see what you're doing. Squeeze right there. Next one down. This guy is going to sit right there, squeeze, and this guy is going to sit right there, squeeze, and this bottom one is going to sit right down at the bottom, just like so. So see, same kind of, and it's not exact, but like I said, I'm not super precise. If you guys are feeling like you need to make it exactly perfect, make sure you get a ruler out. And but I wear these all the time, and when I make them, I kind of do almost like a production line style. And so if I was going to measure everything and get crazy about it, I probably wouldn't enjoy making them as much, just because it is kind of hard to see. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to close that up, and I have got this guy in gold. And what I wanted was to have another pair of these, one in gold and one in silver, and now I do. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed making that illusion pair of earrings. Don't forget you're going to need some tools and supplies to get started with this project. Always a good idea to have those all ready before you get started. We did use our Supplemax, which is an illusion style monofilament cord, and we used some crimp beads in 2 different sizes. One was a 1 millimeter, one was about a 0.5 millimeter, the smallest I could find. We're going to use graduated or various size of pearls in this project, and then I did use a little bead stopper to keep the beads from falling off the end, as well as a flush cutter and my flat nose plier. Thanks so much for watching. If you guys would like to pick up some supplies like the ones I worked with today, check out the links down below. What beads or gemstones would you use in your illusion style jewelry? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And now that you know a little bit about making illusion style jewelry, you can say, I made this.